The budget is not just an explanation of how the government wants to spend its money. It must also explain to Parliament what sort of resources the government will raise and how.
Our resources are basically two: tax receipts and capital receipts. Capital receipts depends on your how much borrowing you will do, and tax receipts again are indirect tax receipts or direct tax receipts. The indirect taxes, you have income tax and corporate tax, and indirect receipts you have custom, excise and service. In the taxation stream, I think basically it is the corporate taxation which will give you highest, which this year has suffered a problem because of the economic slowdown, and direct tax receipts in income tax and here on the services tax. So, these are the estimations which are done by the revenue department.
And primarily the tax revenues, the budget division depends totally and solely on the Department of Revenue, which in turn depends on the Central Board of Excise and Customs and the Central Board of Direct Taxes, which give the estimates for the revenue collections during the forthcoming year. Within these two boards, that is CBEC and CBDT, we have two divisions known as the TPL division, which you mentioned, Tax Planning and Legislative Division, which is the part of CBEC, and we have the Tax Planning Division TPL, which is the part of the Board of Direct Taxes, which does about the income tax and the corporation tax, etc.
I think like any prudent person, the tax men don't want to give out their cards right at the beginning of the year. So, they normally, if they are expecting about 100 crore in the next year, they would say they will be able to raise only about 80 crore. So, that at the end of the day, the pressure on them is not so much, and when they come out with revised estimates which are higher than the budget estimates, obviously they get a pat from the finance minister and everybody, and even those of us who are crunching the expenditure figure, we heave a sigh of relief that at least this will not happen.
They are not only trying to meet their targets of the current year, they also project on this basis what is to be done next year. And next year, to increase the target, you need to take some policy measures which are also being contemplated and becoming a part of the budget. That is, how to improve the tax base, how to improve the tax compliance, all those things go on simultaneously.
They also work out what is known as the ARM, the additional resource mobilization during the current course of the year. So, they give up, throw up proposals, and that proposals are thrown up to the budget, core budget team, and they filter those proposals, and then they go to the finance minister for a final decision on those proposals.
But the discussions on what is called the blue sheet, they start taking place quite early, and say by October, November.
And it's known as a blue sheet simply because it's prepared on a blue, the paper is a blue in color, and it's basically a top sheet of which gives the entire with a summary of the entire budget in broad headings. It's only known or shown to the core budget team by the JS budget, and at the end of each meeting of the core budget team, it's taken away from them and it's locked up in the almirah of the safe of the joint secretary budget. The core team comprises the three secretaries plus CA, and of course the joint secretary or the additional secretary budget is the officer which services this team.
They decide what is going to be the estimated direct tax revenue, what is going to be the estimated indirect tax revenue, and what will be the planned and non-planned expenditure, and at the end of the day, what is the kind of fiscal deficit or revenue deficit that we are looking at for the next year. And now with the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act in place, it's almost a backward calculation. You decide first what is the fiscal deficit that you're going to stick to, and that would almost be defined by your commitment under the FRBM Act. So, the first question that the finance minister has to ask himself or herself is he going to stick to that target, or is he going to breach that?
All these economic priorities are discussed, and meetings are also being held by the finance minister with the PM and others off and on. And thereafter a total view is taken.
And also discussions are taking place with these stakeholders. They could be industrial the associations like FICCI, CII, etc. They could be a body of industrialists. There is the body and associations of agriculturists and farmers. Then there are trade unions and etc. other interested parties.
The finance minister has one meeting with industry, with a select group of CEOs, usually between 15 and 20, and I know that continues. But there he has all his officers with him. People are sitting in a kind of a circle or semicircle, and he asks each one to say his piece. I don't think he hears anything new in that meeting, because that's January. By that time, everything that needed to be said has been put in to the system. But this is a kind of a face-to-face meeting and an opportunity. And the finance minister only listens. He doesn't say anything.
Well, budget really is frozen, for instance, by February 15 or so, and something like, as we are talking on February 15th. So by now the budget should have been frozen in terms of expenditures and revenues and fiscal deficit levels, etc. Only very changes which only the finance minister wants, particularly for some particular reason, changes take place after this date. The reason is that it does take that much time for the documents to be printed and to be given to the Parliament by the time, which is the morning of the 28th of February.
And the printing of the budget documents isn't a straightforward process either. It must take place in total secrecy. And to ensure that, over 100 people are locked up in the finance ministry's basement in the final week before the budget.